Good time zone to you. This is Amitai coming at you from Streamland. I may or may not have someone join me today. I hope she can. If not, c'est la vie. So what I was working on in the last stream, and I think I should continue to work on in this stream if I can get anywhere with it, is, as you can see in the upper right, something about ikiwiki. What I want to do, to recap, is that I have a different project that I sometimes stream about called Not QMail, whose documentation, as its code, is currently hosted at GitHub. And the authentication is done by GitHub. The people who are allowed to push and review are all managed by GitHub. So, no marginal cost there. Host the wiki there, great. But I also want to extend this documentation with a copy, a fork, of this documentation, Life with QMail, which was written in a very interesting format that I hadn't seen before, for which there is a parser and renderer in Perl, in the Comprehensive Perl Archive Network, CPAN, which means, conveniently for me, it will be super easy to wire it into ikiwiki as an input format and get HTML rendered out. So with that in mind, the hard part would be, in order to be able to host this wiki on ikiwiki, Markdown is no challenge. We can take the files out of this wiki and put them into our own repo with an ikiwiki config file and maybe reorganize it if we want to. Voila. No real challenge there. And again, the handling the input format of this documentation, which I've been given the whole revision control history, can be, it could be converted to a Git repo and then kind of filtered into the history of the main wiki as we'd like, so that it seems like it was always there, no problem, and get it rendered to HTML, again, with an ikiwiki plugin that will be very quick to write, no problem. That'll be a short stream that day, I think. The hard part is, given a standalone ikiwiki instance, can it delegate authentication to GitHub so that this is nearly cost-free for the existing members of the project and the administrators of the project, who are me and one other, to, just go to a different site and then click edit there and then log in the same way and edit mostly Markdown and occasionally this newer documentation, or this older documentation that we want to modernize. So that's where we're headed, which means the problem we're working on is how to integrate GitHub authentication into the ikiwiki software by means of a running instance of an ikiwiki site using the ikiwiki software, develop the plugin there, doing whatever we need to do to communicate with OAuth, and that's what we had been doing. So let's see where we left off with that. Oh, that's great. Wonderful. Okay. So let's get ourselves a nice new terminal window in ikiwiki. And what had we started on? Yes, we had started on, we had a couple in the last session with Ted M. Young, Jitter Ted, and Ryan Latta, who fortunately didn't come through on the stream. We had two different Perl approaches that we were copying and pasting from to try to get started. This is the one that we thought would probably be fruitful because it's using NetOAuth 2, and it seemed to have the kind of parameters that we were going to need. So this looked like an angle that we should pursue. And the one that didn't was using net OpenID consumer. ikiwiki already has OpenID authentication. It does not already have OAuth 1 or 2 generically. It just has OpenID. There is a relation between OpenID and OAuth, which we sort of noted without much detail in the last stream. But I think it's just, I don't necessarily have to understand that relationship. And as usual, I want to defer as much understanding as I can until I have something working. Um, so we decided this one probably wasn't going to work, and number 2 here probably is the right idea. Where we had gotten to was that, so this is totally an example right out of the example that we copied and pasted from on CPAN. Let's see if I can, do I have that window anyplace? Maybe this one. Yeah, we're in luck. Okay, so this is where I copied and pasted it from, as you can see. Probably didn't change anything. And the reason we thought this would be fruitful, besides the name of the module that it's using looks right, is what happens when we run it. Even with the dumb defaults, it does look like it's trying to do the right things given the right data, which we haven't done. So let me simplify our lives and remove this one from tab completion, hopefully. Oh, it didn't work. Okay. So let's put that back as it was. OpenID, not. OAuth 2. That didn't rhyme. Okay. What is next? Now, I think what we had finished, or sort of ended, I wouldn't say finished, what we ended with last time was got pretty close to having a running site. Yeah, we have a running site. It is here, GitHub auth.local. Yeah, so there it is, working on GitHub auth. And just to prove that I control that site, I think if I go into sites, GitHub auth, source index, just working on GitHub auth. And ikiwiki setup, sites, GitHub auth.local, conf ikiwiki, rebuild. Okay, so you can see that there. So this is the site that is accessible locally as GitHub auth.local, which I need in order to develop the plugin, because I need to be able to declare a site to GitHub to register it in order to, how you say, have it give me authentication responses and figure out what to do with them. The next problem we were going to solve was, it seems like it's not just a request and a response in the end. It goes back and forth a couple times until the authentication is complete. And so some of that's redirecting back to us handling the authentication. And then ultimately at the end, it's redirecting to the action you were trying to take that required the authentication on your own site. But to begin with, we have to handle the back and forth with the GitHub authentication service. And for that, we were talking through conceptually, how could that possibly work in ikiwiki, which is a mostly static site generator. Not exclusively, though. So if you've worked with Jekyll, and you were trying to handle GitHub authentication where it has to call back to your web server, as far as I know, with my limited use of Jekyll, there is no way to do that. Jekyll does not have any way to run code on a request. It only runs code in advance of requests. ikiwiki is mostly like that. But because it was sort of conceptualized before there was this artificial distinction between static site generators and whatever else you would call things that existed before that, it kind of designed itself into mostly static. And it has a URL space that you can optionally enable, CGI based, where you can handle things dynamically via a web page. Specifically for the edit this page use case. And this is ikiwiki's edit control, and this is my own JavaScript edit control. Let me just take a quick moment and show you what that's about. As long as we're here, it's this. Just a quick aside. You may recall, if you were a wiki fanatic back in the day, that there was a browser plugin called Universal Edit Button, and that would give you sort of a consistent user interface widget in your browser that would be the same on any site that you could edit the page. Because each site also has its own links, of course, styled how they style them. But if you're a wiki editing kind of a person, then you just want your browser to tell you in the same way every time if this is a page you could edit. So I liked that, and I was reminded of it somewhat recently. And I wanted to revive it, and I found that there wasn't a plugin that would work in all the browsers that I was concerned with. But user scripts, like whatever they're called, Spider Monkey or whatever they used to be called, little tiny JavaScripts that you can customize what happens on a web page. Those, it seems like there's a user script plugin that is broadly compatible on any browser you might want. And then the scripts themselves don't have to know which plugin is making them run because the runtime environment is substantially similar. At least for what I was doing, which is making a little button called edit this page in the event that the page contains an edit control. And that allowed me, given that kind of an in-browser control, it allowed me to remove the statically rendered edit this page links from my own ikiwiki websites. I didn't want them showing up for everybody. It's kind of distracting when I'm the only one who should be able to do the editing. And authentication and authorization make that true. But since it's statically rendered, people who aren't me would see those links anyway. And it's just sort of a mild cognitive loader. And so I thought, let me remove that from my own site and rely on my own browser to have an edit this page control in it. That's what this is. And that's why it's overlaid here. This is not an ikiwiki thing. This is my browser, my user script thing. You can get it too if you want, if you're a wiki person. So when I come back in just a few moments, we will see where we got to with running and try. Our next job is going to be to define a part of the ikiwiki dynamic URL space, which is very constrained, but also within that constraint, very free. Define a part of that space that is for our new plugin to intercept, so that when there's this GitHub auth back and forth, we can catch it, knowing that other plugins won't. So let's do that in just a moment. All right. Laundry has been processed sufficiently. Where were we? We were going to continue developing, just to put a name on it. What I think specifically is needed for ikiwiki is not a GitHub plugin per se, but first, and maybe only, an OAuth 2 authentication plugin. Maybe I'll eat those words. They'll be delicious. But I think the OAuth part is pretty generic and is something that ikiwiki is missing. And I would like the solution to involve generically upstreaming OAuth 2 support into ikiwiki. It already has OpenID, which, as we've said, what is going on with this? Oh, my poor Mac. It's already enabled, you weirdos. Yeah, I know. Where was I? Yes, there already is OpenID support in ikiwiki, and OAuth 2 is just, I guess, a more modern advancement on the same idea, where you delegate authentication to an external provider. I would like ikiwiki to have the latest thing in a generic way, and then whatever minimal thing we have to do to hook it up to GitHub on top of that. So for developing an OAuth 2 plugin, is that how I started writing it? It is. ikiwiki plugin OAuth 2. I have a lot of stuff here sitting around, but that's that stuff. Yeah, lucky for me, I left some notes from last time to help me remember where the heck we were. So we were looking at filling out this form. So you have to register with GitHub in order to get whatever client secret, maybe client ID, that you need in order to have them be willing to give you a response to authentication. And for that, that's why we have an instance. That's why we have a local instance. And that's why I need a URL here, like that. For now, I'm not trying to bother with SSL. Hopefully it's not required by the protocol itself. Of course, a production website will have SSL, but it shouldn't be a dependency, I hope, for developing this plugin. So application name, ikiwiki OAuth 2 attempt 1. Yeah. So I gather, well, I assume, and it's probably the case, that once I have registered this, I probably won't be able to change the callback URL. If that's false, then I'm overthinking this. But if it's true, then that's why I want to have more than one name for what I'm doing. And then the callback URL, we were trying to guess what that should look like. My guess at the time that I almost went through with was, so I know what the URL space for ikiwiki's CGI looks like. Let's show that for a second. If I make this a little wider, you might even be able to see it. So if I say edit here, it should bounce me through to an ikiwiki CGI if the site is up. Why would that take a long time to answer? That's weird. Let's try this again. Preferences also goes through the CGI. Okay, that's there. Oh, probably, yeah, okay. So anyway, this is what the CGI URL space looks like. In other words, this is what the dynamic portion of the URL space in an ikiwiki site looks like. It doesn't have to literally be /CGI/ikiwiki. That's configurable. But whatever it is configured to, it will then have a query string and some parameters under there. Some of those parameters are widely used by all plugins, or are available to all plugins. And then something else a plugin can do, of course, because it's a bunch of keys and values, is invent a key specifically for its own interest that something else could put in there, which I think is the use case for OAuth 2. So what I was trying to guess, now that you see what I'm up to here, I was trying to guess what should I have the callback URL look like. And I guess one other way to make an educated guess about that would be to look at what OpenID does, but I think we should just get to trying stuff. So I'm going to get to trying stuff. Let's take this guess, put it in there. What I'm hoping is going to happen here, and it's either right or wrong, is that GitHub will simply tack some kind of a value, a single value here, or be aware that if it's tacking multiple values, that it's part of a query string at this point. Either of those would be fine. If I'm guessing wrong and it wants to provide the whole query string, then I guess we'll find that out and we'll register another application. Yeah, let's give this a shot. Okay. Yeah, it's mine. Definitely not listing it in the marketplace. There are no users yet. Here we go. Okay. Oh. So I need to write a couple things down here, don't I? Let's pop out of here and into OAuth 2, this one, and get down our client ID. And that is a string to Perl. And my secret. This is a very interesting comma style that I have not met before, and I'm trying to decide if I like it. My fingers were trying to append commas at both of these, but now I see they're doing it this way. I'm gonna try to like that. So I'm never going to use this secret in a production site, so I'm not worried about revealing it to you. Let's just make one. Wow. It'll be easier to do this right now. Be right back. Okay. So now I have a new client secret. I'm going to copy it out. That goes there. Application logo. That's funny. Yeah, I don't care about that. Okay, update, I guess. Cool. So right now, if I run the script, it's going to send those pieces of information to Google. That is not the point here. So where are the GitHub settings? The site and the scope and the authorized path and all that stuff. Probably one of these. Non-web application flow. Yeah, I'm the web application flow. Ted and Ryan were very sure about that, having done this thing before. So not the device flow, the web application flow right there. Paste that into the chat in case anybody's interested to follow along. That wasn't it. Yeah. So that's the documentation I'm looking at the moment. Right. So my app will redirect to GitHub for authentication. GitHub will redirect with, presumably with the successful authentication. There's an access token. And then we hit the GitHub API with that token. Right. And in my case, I don't necessarily need to hit the API any further with that token. I just need to know that I could get one. And if I know which user authenticated to GitHub, then I could match it against my own allow list. But maybe I do want to hit the API and just hit the project's access control list. And GitHub can tell me if the person that got an access token, meaning they're a GitHub user, that's way too broad a brush. If it's a GitHub user that has access to this project, in which case, then they should be allowed to edit the wiki. I want those to be the same. So I might use the API with the access token. That might be a good idea. Now then, it looks like this is the place I'm supposed to go. Instead of, yeah, this looks like an authorized path. So if I understand correctly, the pieces of DNS here, the domain name, I guess the pieces of the URL, github.com is the site. Authorized path is going to be this. Yeah. And then I need to pass in the client ID, which the example already has us doing. Need to pass in a redirect URI. After they're authorized, where should I send them? That depends where they were coming from. I don't know that at this time. Right now, I just want to see if I can authenticate at all. Uh, so I don't know what to make of this. I don't know what to make of this. Maybe the example from the Perl code has it. What's protected resource URL? Oops. Doesn't say. Okay. ID and secret are required. All right. I just really wanted to hit probably the correct site and then see what happens. Now this code is written to run in a web server context. Hi Astrid, you're here. I'm going to send you a note in a different channel. I was going to hopefully have someone to pair program with today. It sounds like her work was a little extra, but maybe she'll be able to join us now. We'll see if she's got the ability to do that or not. Yeah, so, okay, so this looks like this is sort of the logical name of the thing we're trying to get at. So I'll just make up a name that I want, which is ikiwiki learns OAuth do. And then a protected resource URL, I guess, would be something on my live site. So maybe like this edit link. Somebody trying to, yes. I think she's going to join. So I don't know what this is about, but we'll find out. There we go. Access token path. Access token path. So maybe some of these examples have more of that. I don't know. Don't know. I think she's trying to join. I will need to patch her into the stream once she has. What we were about to do here is I don't know. I'll leave that. Scope definitely isn't right. If I remember right, yeah. So scope is some sort of maybe like a URL parent of the protected resource. So let's say like do equals edit is a scope. Maybe. I'm not going to wind up caring a lot about scopes, I don't think, but I do need to get a successful response, and then we can figure it out. So what happens if I run that now? Cookies must be enabled to use GitHub, line 28. So there's some kind of this code example is supposed to run in a web server context, and maybe I'm stymieing it by trying to run it directly. Let us shepherd it into our burgeoning nascent ikiwiki plugin. I'm sorry, this is not a vocabulary test channel. It's gotten into me. So I want to take the guts of this and put it into a context where it can run in a web server and the browser can do whatever it's supposed to do. Because that might be how we have to develop this. So, yeah, guess I'll just yoink the whole thing and drop it down here for a moment. And then whoop, that hiccup. Astrid is having technical issues joining. I also have occasional technical issues with my external display, which is powered by display link. And every now and then it hiccups like that. So forgive me. Now I'm going to, oh, she is here. Can you hear me talking? Let's see if I add you to the scene. And then I need to copy this link and put it here. Yeah, okay. I see you in the stream. I don't hear you yet. That might be something I need to do.
Okay, I can't switch my background. Can you hear me? Hello, hello, hello.
No. Yeah, I definitely see you in the stream with a nice green screen background, no less. But I don't have any sound from you. Do you hear sound from me?
I hear my sound on Twitch.
Looks like maybe. I'm not sure. I don't have sound. You? Only this green screen video. Can you hear me? Technical difficulties, as always. Just a moment while we figure this out. There's something I'm supposed to do here to share my screen. Yes, this is the one. Yeah. And then I want to share. Huh? Wait, do you hear me now?
I hear you.
I hear you too.
Yes!
I pushed a button. That's probably it.
I
don't know
pushed
what
the
I'm
button too, so
Okay.
maybe both.
Yay! The next thing I'm trying to figure out how to do is you don't see my screen right now, right?
Yeah, I would love to see your screen, so
There's a
I
button
see
that's
what you're
supposed
doing
to
as I
do it.
closed Twitch.
Yeah.
as
Yeah,
you advised.
I think that's right. Close Twitch. Hopefully people are hearing you on the stream. I think so. I'm trying to share my screen through our little patch panel that I have, that's connected into, and it's not popping anything up. I wonder if, yeah, allow to share a screen. Allow. And now it's supposed to ask me which one, and it did. And now maybe you can almost this one. Wow, now it's asking me 19 times. Okay. One screen, one time.
Blurry.
Ay, 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 ay. Over and over and over again. This screen.
Really, really sure.
I don't want to say don't allow, just to make the dialogue go away, because what if that wins? Just try a few more times. Oy vey.
I can see your screen, but it's really, really blurry.
Okay.
So I can't barely read what's on it.
Okay. I would hope it can get better. Let's check the settings. When I did it last time with Ted and Ryan, I think it was okay this way, but I think it's also very confused. Let me try stopping the share and then starting it again, maybe doing it one time.
Mm-hmm.
Is that any better yet?
Better.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was in some kind of a tight loop, using all of its CPU to ask me if it's allowed over and over again instead of showing you what's on the screen. Okay. So hopefully it's a good resolution. Nice to see you live. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Long time.
Yeah. Yeah, so those of you watching the stream, you may not know, but Astrid and I programmed together a fair amount a couple years ago on many Fridays when I was doing sort of an open source legacy code rescue, which sometimes is what I'm doing on this stream too. So the thing we're working on today, and I'm kind of slowly figuring out how to take steps with it, is to do GitHub authentication from my web content management system of choice. And I think I'm nearly at the point where I have kind of a plugin for that content management system and kind of some example code that maybe will run and tell me the dumb thing that I'm doing wrong. But that's the point we're at, is that we have to learn how to communicate with GitHub and have it bounce back to us and have us bounce back to it while we are in our plugin context. And so I'm nearly at the point where I can... Actually, let me show you what I just did. What I just did was try to run this Perl example with a few GitHub values substituted for the Google values. And it said, among other things, cookies must be enabled to use GitHub. So whatever this authentication dance is, at least the version that I copied out of this example, which says it's for running in a web server context, I tried to run it not in a web server context, just to see if I could. And I guess I need a real web browser, is what that suggests to me. So instead of trying to run it from the command line, I took the code from there and tried to start jamming it into the OAuth 2 plugin that I'm generating that I'm writing for the content management system. So I just pasted it all here, and now I'm going to try to move it up into wherever it would have to go. So for now, we're going to hard code some secrets. I don't mind.
The screen is again in a bad quality, so whenever you type something or move it, it's blurry.
Okay, let me check if I shouldn't have anything network going on here other than the streaming or CPU. It's not that the resolution is too high, it's just that the display is blurry and laggy.
Yeah.
Okay. don't see a lot of settings about it. I'm using something called video.ninja that makes it very easy to be connected and share, but I guess also is limited by browsers, how it can work. I don't see much to do about it. Settings? Video?
So I'd just be your rubber duck and sit here and look interested.
If you really can't see, yeah, that's not what I was hoping for. Maybe if I lower the frame rate. No, it doesn't let me. Okay, not that. Well, nuts. Does it get better after some seconds of not changing it?
Yeah, but it's slow and not a working way. So
Yeah.
I could open Twitch on another machine and then watch you,
Yeah.
but it's
Okay.
I have about 6 or 7 seconds delay between you typing in something into Twitch and I hear it here.
Well, this is no fun.
I could try to put my glasses on, but it's blurry still.
Yeah, I think it's probably not between the eyes and the brain. It's probably between the bytes and the networks. Well, nuts. I guess I'll just try to describe really well what I'm doing, and if you're wondering something.
Yeah, I have an idea on what it might mean. So, and I don't know a lot of Perl anyway. So I be
used to.
here and ask, do you have tests?
Ah, that's a great question. For this, certainly not. In ikiwiki in general, I've done some test-driven development, but in terms of how this protocol works, if you need a browser to develop it, I don't know what I would do. Yeah, I think I'm still in what feels like a spike phase right now. I'm just trying to be able to get a communication to happen so that I know the nature of what we're trying to do. If we can succeed at that, we could think about tests for it. Okay, so I want to take, I guess, this whole thing. And drop it into auth. Very copy-pasty.
Yeah, feels familiar.
Yeah. Okay, so I have an ikiwiki plugin. It's called OAuth 2. It uses a copy-pasted version of this example. I have a client ID and secret from registering with GitHub. So I put them in the plugin directly for now. And then there's two parts of the ikiwiki API that we are currently hooked into. One of them is called get setup, which is just how a plugin describes which configuration it can have and the default values. And then auth, which may or may not be the right API hook in ikiwiki, but there is one. It's called auth, and I have a callback for that, which is here. And in that callback, we receive. What do we receive? Let's look at the ikiwiki documentation. Yes. This hook can be used to implement.
Does showing the secret in public have any major implications?
I was thinking about it at the time that I was requesting the secret, and I'm using it to develop this plugin, this instance of the site that's on github.local. And so I decided I won't show people how I'm authenticating to GitHub to get the secret, but it's okay to show the secret. Yeah, I won't be using this for any, and if anybody else gets it, and I don't know, beats me to developing this plugin, I guess that's okay. But otherwise, I'm not sure what they can do with it. I guess they could impersonate my ikiwiki site. That doesn't mean anything to anybody, so I guess it's okay. So what does the auth hook get? it gets a CGI object, which I guess is the queue, and a session object, which is the other one. Okay, so our job in this hook, if the hook is able to authenticate the user, this is the ikiwiki API documentation. If the hook is able to authenticate the user, it should set the session object's name parameter to the authenticated user's name. I guess that winds up being an attribution if you're doing a wiki edit or what have you. But that's a way to indicate that authentication succeeded, I guess, is to set the name parameter. Auth plugins can use the login selector helper plugin. Yeah, so the OpenID plugin does this, and we'll borrow that later. But for now, we don't need it. Okay. So I'm going to call that endpoint with these parameters and see what the hell happens. I think instead of print, I need to do it something else. I need to do, what is it called? Debug? Yeah, okay. So replace print with debug because we're in the context of ikiwiki. And that's all the print statements. Okay. So then I don't know if I did this yet. I need to make sure that this plugin is enabled on my site. This actually might be what we spend some time on now, come to think of it. Okay, so I need to add a plugin that I've called OAuth 2, but it will not be in the installed system ikiwiki. It will be in a different libdir from sort of my git checkout of ikiwiki. So I need to specify where that is, and I think I have a project that does that already. So let's look for that in sites. Not there, but I think here. Yeah, I think I'm in the right place. That's right. So, yeah, so my personal website has some add-ons to ikiwiki that are not upstreamed, and this is where it finds them. So I want to do something analogous but different, which is to put this path. And I think that's it. I think it'll get found in there. So let's try. Whoop. Okay, my Perl doesn't compile. So yeah, this is definitely wired up the right way. It's trying to load that plugin. Did I forget to declare something on line 63? I'm sure I did. I bet so. '63. Oh yeah, info. Where did that come from? It says info are the parameters from the callback to your service. I guess I need to, like, who made that be true? Do I need to say my right there? Or do I need to have it defined before I make the call? That was okay, I guess. Okay, so then if I go to my ikiwiki site and I try to do a login thing, oh, this is exactly the error
What?
message that I got when I did it from the command line.
Maybe
Which
you don't have cookies enabled? Would
my,
be.
yeah, that's a good guess. My browser for sure does. I don't do anything funny with that. But maybe this server is using some kind of an HTTP client to talk to GitHub, and that doesn't. Let's Google for this. From Perl. That doesn't look like Perl. So let's try a few of these. Couldn't find anything explaining why GitHub needs cookies enabled or how to go about it. I'd like to use Python blah 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 snippet from my code. The result says cookies must be enabled to use GitHub. Tried to do this, didn't work. Answer seems to be related to the API endpoint. All API accesses over HTTPS accessed from who? You're calling the GitHub website, which requires a bunch of stuff to work, like cookies and JavaScript. That's why you need a specific endpoint for the API. But that doesn't explain anything. Next. No answer. Next. Yeah, that's what I got. I got the same error. No answer. I see this problem and I don't know how to fix it. GitHub used to work fine, but not anymore. Okay. Oh god, no. What's this? API. Okay. That looks like an answer. I was freaked out that it was a GPT chat, but it does look
Probably
relevant.
it is.
Yeah. So line 48 here, api.github.com. Different. So in that case, can I get the same, like, if I can defer the integration with ikiwiki, I'd like to. I want to just do this command line, if at all possible. Does that get better if I do this? Yeah? Okay, so far, I don't have to be integrated with ikiwiki to get the same error message. So that's good. 404 not found for the OAuth call access token. Line 20.
Is there a document? Is the URL correct?
That I was requesting? I definitely don't know. What did we request? We requested API GitHub.com, login, OAuth, authorize, and some stuff. That part I think is right. And the reason I think so is this is from the web application flow from GitHub that Ted and Ryan both agreed, having integrated with GitHub before, that this is the flow for me. And then this is the URL that I think we just hit, https api.github.com. But this doesn't say API. What the heck? Huh?
Can you listen to what you're actually sending? Like checking what's going in and out?
That would be cool, wouldn't it? That's really surprising. So one thing made me say API, and then this documentation clearly says not API. Once I have the access token, then I go to API. Is that? Let me just try that real quick, and then let's see if we can.
Yeah.
So once I have an access token, No, that doesn't help me understand. So for instance, we would want to see what this sends when it sends. Where'd that one go? Net auth to profile web server. Mm-hmm. This is mildly interesting. I wonder if I'm supposed to have done a redirect. So where are things being sent? Does this send one, or does it just sort of set up an object? I don't know. Read details before you start implementing this interface. Okay.
We never do we?
Well,
Read the
once it doesn't work,
documentation.
then
Yeah,
maybe.
but not before you start
No,
coding.
no.
My life,
That's a trick.
never.
That's a trick. Documentation is inventory until you know that you need it, and then it's the bottleneck. Just like that.
And then
Server-server
the days
protocol.
where you had a real copy of the documentation just stood in the shelf until it was so old it couldn't help you when you have troubles.
Exactly.
No.
What
Okay.
else?
I think you need to ask GitHub without the API for the auth key. And with the auth key as a
Mm-hmm.
bearer, you ask for anything you need from the API. That's how I understand it.
Yeah, I have the same. Yeah, I'm not sure what did. Is it this one? Maybe. So let's try. Um, got here. Access token is. That might not look like anything, but let's see. And then, yeah, yay, it worked is what we don't see. So let's see if we get this one first. No. So this was against github.com, not API.
Then cookies must be enabled to use GitHub.
This thing again, yeah.
So
Put some more print statements in here.
you're just doing what you use just get, don't you?
Good old debug printing. Okay, got as far as Schmann's 2. And then this is where we must have bailed out. Failed OAuth call access token. 403 for Pro net OAuth to GitHub example. Wow, that's really old. Okay.
But it's really that GitHub requires you to have your cookies enabled, but you don't use a browser on the console.
Yeah.
So maybe there is something that fakes a browser, or you have a headless browser you can use.
I'm wondering where the cookies are needed to come from. Oh, this is a fun idea. Need example code to authenticate using netauth2. Have you looked at the code in the test directory? I'd like to.
This directory using tests to verify behavior.
I would like that a lot. Yeah. netauth2. So somewhere here is just the repository. Yeah. And then T. Well, the tests have changed since then, but this is just making sure everything compiles. What does this one do? Check usage of the web server. Okay. ID, secret, and site. Oh, this looks pretty promising. So load that and put those things in, and this one, and cute URL there. Very cute URL there, although it's misspelled. Okay. We're making up some things that we didn't have, but that's okay. We don't need them. So then it makes sure that this is an instance of that kind of object, and that its ID and secret were populated with the parameters that we passed. And including the access token URL. I think we sent that one. Yeah, we set that one. They know that it's misspelled. Okay. That's funny. Now we're going to call authorize. Did we ever call authorize? Straight up authorize? I don't know. We called authorize response. Oh, and then, oh, yeah, we never did. All right. So, but we did make it here. I'm just struggling to think about what to think about. My current hypothesis is that somewhere in netauth2 profile web server, if we looked at that code, I want to keep this test code open for sure. But if we look at the module itself, it will have Perl modules that are HTTP client things in it. Uh-huh. It do. HTTP request. So somewhere here, when we make an HTTP request, we lost Astrid. Somewhere in here when we're making a request, we need to make cookies happen in it. Cookie? No. Request. Authorized response is something we did call. And it makes a request if there's a request. We didn't pass that in. Yeah, her machine just froze is what happened. So then I need to somehow influence this HTTP request object. Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like she's gonna she's gonna let the technical difficulties be a message from the universe that this wasn't very fun to pair on because she couldn't really see what I was doing. So we'll try again a different time. I really do like to program with her and make sure that that she can see what she needs to see. Yeah, exactly. Thank you for joining us and trying that, and we'll have more fun next time. So I'm still wrestling here with what the heck. So on the hypothesis that it's GitHub responding to this module, NetAuth 2 Profile Web Server that we're using, then when NetAuth 2 Profile Web Server makes requests to GitHub, its HTTP request object needs to have cookies enabled somehow. So I need to see how those request objects get made. Um, it's possible to call authorized response with a request, but we didn't. So maybe we need to make a custom request object that has cookies enabled. So let's see about that. HTTP request, I believe is part of libwp, LWP. Oh no, it's right here. Okay, so you can put your own user agent. Oh no, you give it to a user agent. Okay, so I definitely didn't try to do anything with that. It's the user agent that would have cookies enabled or not. So let's keep digging here. Where were we? User age. We are making requests. Where do they get done? What does it mean here? Authorized response. We send it a request. We make a response that says this with the location of whatever authorize currently says. And then if we have a request, we stick it on the response. Oh, so that maybe isn't actually how the request gets made. That's just filling in the information on the response object we already made. Get access token. This one definitely. Yeah, here we go. Request, build request. Let's go there. Params come from access token params. Okay, so access token params enable cookies for GitHub for reasons. Let's go find that. Build request. Whew, wow, so exciting. Um, access token params. is a method. Okay, so if we just pass something in to get access token, right there, whatever that has to be. And then we get the response by doing the request. So what is the param on HTTP request that would make that work? So usually, they're saying usually you do it via a user agent. But I think the module we're using does it via a response object directly. I don't see a user agent involved there. This is not what the code looks like in the module that we're looking at. There's no user agent. Yeah, so when you set request on a response, it's just to define the attribute. It doesn't make the request happen. It makes sense. So what anywhere made a request happen? Build request didn't call it. Oh, we're not setting request on the response. We're calling request on self. Okay, so we have a method called request. Possibly by inheritance? Yes, exactly. Okay, so then we need to see the parent class netauth2 profile, which will be here, and this has a sub request. Which goes through a user agent. Okay, getting warmer. So where does the user agent come from and how can we make it cookie enabled? Uh-huh. Yeah, created internally. Great, great, great. But this being Perl, we can usually reach in and mess with it. So there's something to be said for that. So we might need to do that. Okay, so then because netauth2 profile web server is an instance of netauth2 profile, and netauth2 profile has a user agent, then so do we, and we can mess with it. And therefore, I propose right here, auth, yeah, let's just do this. Oops. This should have some kind of a thing in it, just to see what we're dealing with. Yeah, fine, it's a hash. So auth user agent, and now let's look at the documentation for LWP user agent. And somewhere here on the user agent, I'm allowed to do cool stuff like cookies or not. Cookie? Heh. The default is to have no cookie jar. Never automatically add cookie headers to the requests. Disagree. Cookie jar Give me some examples. I guess just a new HTTP cookies. Probably like that. No. Okay, on to the next one. Whoops. Verbal HTTP cookies. Yeah. Yeah. You make a new and you have to give it some stuff, and also you probably have to have used it. Maybe that's enough. Oh, okay. So there's no user agent defined yet. For an empty and temporary cookie jar. That's what I want. Browser cookie jar. Like that. Could be right. Okay, so we're still calling it an undefined value, so we need to make sure there is a user agent. But I think what we saw was that there was kind of a which tab was I in? There was a default one. Probably is how that was done. It was like nop agent. Yeah. So there's sort of a default agent if you don't specify one. And then when do we call user agent? Not sure. But so what if I change this again, because it's visible, I can do this. Nuts. Let me see more clearly what I'm up against here. I think we set cookie jar there. I'm not going to bother with this. It's not a dumpable thing. Yeah, you know what? I think I can do it like this. Use data dumper, print dumper. Is it capital? Yeah. And that'll show us what's in that structure. Woo, quite a bit. Yeah. Indeed, this is what a user agent looks like. It's a blessed hash, as most Perl objects are. It has a nop agent in it, which is also a blessed hash. To show progress and to eProtocols. Cookie jar class is HTTP cookies. And the cookie jar is appearing in these places for the request and the response. Cookie jar is of the right type. It happened. So then why do we still get this? Is the question. I wouldn't say the question. I have a lot of questions. That is a question. Right now it's a very confusing thing. Programming. How does it work when everything is integrated with everything else? What am I supposed to do here? Schwans2 still printed one of these. Oh, right. I don't need to be doing this. Okay, so then what's saying cookies must be enabled to use GitHub? Why is that still happening? Because as far as I know, I have modified this object to request and store cookies for the duration of this process. It won't persist them, but it should have them, should ask for them, should get them. The other thing maybe we didn't do was actually say this. That was in the example. Okay, done with that, I think. Access token. So we don't get here. This does not complete. Something here is throwing. So not relevant yet. Not currently working through ikiwiki at all. Right, what else did this example do that we don't maybe do? So we got an ID and a secret and a site. That's my site. Oh, have I misunderstood what site was for? I thought that was where we're going to hit the authentication, but it's saying my site here. Hmm. Hold the phone. Okay, so let's go back to our documentation for not that one. Net OAuth 2 profile WebServer. Yeah, their site is accounts.google.com, not like some application site. Access token URL. Yeah. So this isn't client site at all. It's to what do I want to call it? Authentication provider site is what that is. In which case it's not this at all. It's that, but sometimes after I'm done API.that. Yay. My brain is struggling. Hmm. To describe more. Okay, it's coming from that auth to profile, so then let's bounce back up to there. Site. Oh, it doesn't help at all to read. Okay, my thinking was, and I guess still is, The site is who we are hitting to do the authentication. And then the authorized path is where on that site we're going. I don't exactly know about this part. Maybe I shouldn't specify it. And then I guess this is the thing that made us need to authenticate. That's my understanding. So what happens when we go this again? We failed the call to get an access token because we got a 403 forbidden. Who is saying this? Line 40. It's that auth get access token. Okay, let's go back there. This isn't calling it at all. So when we call get access token, we pass a code reference and an options hash, which defaults to client ID and secret. It makes sense I shouldn't have to specify those again. What about the code for this module? Auth 2, profile, get access, no? So then get access token. This is the method that is not succeeding for us. And it takes a code reference and additional parameters. And it turns those into access token parameters in some kind of way, possibly relevant. And then sticks those on however it does this request building. And then whatever happens with that request. This is just build request. This isn't do request. Oh, right. Again, I misread this again. We're not sticking, we're calling request now. Okay. So this is important. This is the request object that isn't getting there. And our response was failed auth call access token, received error, 403 forbidden cookies must be enabled. I don't know. Let's try this API thing again. So confused. something not found from going here. Yeah, that's not supposed to be at API. It's supposed to be at the other one. So tedious. So would be nice to see this request before we make it. Ah, okay, let's take a look. User agent. Okay. So I would need this kind of a thing. Trying to figure out when I would use this instead. My understanding is the LWP user agent itself, which is not seen here, but is happening under the covers. Where did we go to see it? The LWP user agent object itself is the one that sends the request, gets the response, and either wants to have cookies or not. And I thought that I was influencing it to want them, but maybe I was not. Yeah, let's see what we got. User agent, cookie jar, set cookie in the request. Need to create a cookie jar. Yeah, I don't know what values to put in the jar. I just want the user agent to have a cookie jar so the cookies can be set. I think. Yeah, like if I knew what to put here, I think that's something that LWP will do internally if it gets a response that says to set one and it has a jar. By default, it doesn't have a jar, which is why I was trying to do this. But maybe I haven't succeeded at making it have a jar. Maybe I just thought that I messed with its internals, but they're not the right ones. So let's pop back. Yeah, this, I don't quite understand when I would want this instead. Because we are involved with these necessarily, because LWP uses them. So let me double back and try to validate what I thought I was doing here. Modifying the user agent that's actually on the auth object. Oh, hey. Welcome, S.R. Baker. I think I know which S.R. Baker this is. We haven't met, but longtime fan. Thanks for joining. I don't know how to make this go away. I guess like that. Yeah. A fellow ikiwiki fan. Well, then you may know that I am... yeah. No, I won't set my expectations unfairly high. It's just nice to see the name. I've seen you around. I'm sure we have a lot of people in common. ikiwiki has had a pretty sleepy development process of late, and I am somewhat responsible because there are, I think at this point, 3 or maybe 2, depending how you count, co-maintainers. One of them is Joey Hess, the original author, who is basically not really involved anymore because he has other projects that are more pressing for him. But he still has access, and every now and then somebody will Patreon him to develop a particular feature, and then you'll see him push it into ikiwiki. But I don't even think he can cut new releases with the current release process. Neither can I, because the way it was developed, it was the release process went through Debian somehow, and Joey had been a Debian developer and no longer is. So we have one more who does still have access to that, and that's Simon McVitie, SMCV. And yeah, thanks for coming, Astrid, and thanks for trying to program with me. The technology was good on Thursday, mostly, and it was not as good today, so we'll definitely try that again a different way. Yeah, Lars is still somewhat involved. Joey and Lars together ran, and I think still very minimally run, branchable.com, which is a site that you used to be able to. I don't think they're open to new customers anymore. You used to be able to host, it was like an ikiwiki hosting company. Maybe you still can create one. But they still run it, and it's really nice if you want your sites hosted. I happen to like self-hosting, as I imagine a lot of ikiwiki users do, but it is pretty complicated to get going the first time, and so Branchable's nice to lower that bar. So I think Lars is still minimally involved with that. I've also been seeing that he's developing a Rust-based ikiwiki-inspired static site generator. I don't know if he intends to take it all the way to completion and feature parity and like partial dynamism. I don't know if that's on the table. I imagine he's just doing what he needs. I haven't seen him be involved in the development in a while, but then again, I haven't seen me be involved in the development in a while either. So, so it's on my list of things that I care about the most in open source is keeping ikiwiki alive and kicking. That's why I'm trying to get OAuth 2 working. And actually, S.R. Baker, if you know a thing or two about OAuth 2, I'd love to pair program with you on that sometime. That would be real handy. Because I'm definitely very stuck trying to get that hooked up here. Yeah, whew, I really feel like I'm not having any clear thoughts right now on how to figure out what's going on. I'm surprised that my user agent doesn't have a cookie jar or isn't having it get used. I definitely influenced, let's full screen this, I definitely influenced this NOP agent, which I assume, but I'm going to have to, no worries, yeah. Thanks for dropping in, and I'm on a regular schedule now, so Mondays are always this time, and Thursdays are always a little bit later in the afternoon. I guess depends on your time zone. But thanks for coming. It's awesome to hear another ikiwiki fan, and I'm sure we'll be in touch. Yeah, so what am I looking for here is I definitely influenced this NOP agent, but that doesn't necessarily mean I influenced the user agent that's getting used when ikiwiki is making this call. On the other hand, I did not set this kind of thing, NOP authorized URL, directly any way whatsoever. I just followed the API instead of poking around directly in the innards. And this is the thing that I thought should happen there. So current hypothesis that I need to invalidate, or I suppose validate, but I'm really suspicious right now, is all of these things that are called NOP are the defaults left over by the constructor that further operations will use if you don't specify anything to override. And so my hypothesis, the reason that I thought this should have made that cookie message go away, is that when net auth2 yada 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 is going to go request from GitHub, it needs a LWP user agent. It's going to take this one. That's my hypothesis. And so if this one has a cookie jar on it, then I guess that's a stacked hypothesis. Then I also think that I also expect that when the server sets a cookie, the user agent will take it and put it in that jar. Even if it only lasts for the lifetime of this process, we're still in this process. That should have an effect. Yeah, and here's a cookie jar class, and here's the cookie jar, and it is a blessed reference of type HTTP cookies. So yeah, I guess there's two stacked hypotheses here, and if either of them isn't true, then that's my problem. One of them is given a non-empty cookie jar, or no, excuse me, a non-null, a non-undef cookie jar, LWP user agent will populate cookies when it is asked to. And then the other hypothesis is that this is the user agent to give a defined cookies to. If either of those is wrong, that's why this isn't working. It also could be that the error message is coming from a different castle. I'm pretty confused and frustrated and probably also hungry right now. So let me just give this one more look and one more thought, and then I'll probably call it for today. So we make a netauth2 profile of the subclass WebServer, passing in ID and secret. Site is getting used the way that I thought it would to construct the endpoint that we're going to hit. And so is authorized path getting used that way. I wonder if I can leave some more things out. So we make one of these, we mess with the cookies. Let's see if that had any effect whatsoever. Okay, so when we don't make sure there's a cookie jar, then we get the error message from whatever that was. If we make sure there's a cookie jar, no change, except that these are in a different order, and that's allowed. It's just a bag of keys and values. But otherwise, it had no effect on this. Okay, the other thing we thought we could maybe try is calling auth authorize. And I guess that's probably a redirect of some kind for a web server to do. That's not that useful. But we just call it. Okay. I consider that my creativity is at an ebb, and it is time to stop hitting my head against the same wall and let insights come to me. So let's call it for today's stream. I think I'm on the right path. I think this is the right way to start hitting GitHub. I think that so far it is not yet necessary. It's going to be necessary soon, but it's probably not necessary yet, another hypothesis, to be coming from a web server context. Maybe that's the next thing to try. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for your patience with the problem-solving process and for your contributions to solving it. Nice to have a couple familiar faces in the chat and for a moment on the stream. And we'll try and do some more of that. So thanks for watching and see you next time.